Yes, hi. I am calling this number because I saw it on a bathroom wall. Seeing if you're Brandi.
I'm Brandi Lukas, and this is Brandi is Going to Hell. My taste in music is all over the shop, and it's the driving force behind this show. I will be bringing you music updates and chats with artists that you won't hear anywhere else.
The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool.
That night, I think a second bottle of Jack Daniels happened, and all these fans and people came in.
Oh, yeah!
Listened.
That's right. Yeah, and then suddenly there's like 20 rock fans in our caravan, like listening to Mojo Skyline, getting the first listen anyone's ever heard.
That's cool.
I remember the next day walking around the site, and people were like, "Oh, it's great to like come around your caravan last night and listen to the album." And I was like, "Who are you?"
I'm Brandi Lukas, and that was John and Scott from the Dust Coda, a 4-piece rock band from London. In this episode, they unpack everything you need to know about their latest album, Mojo Skyline. They talk about secret rooms at biker bars, writing songs on grease rooftops, and the connection between Beavertown Brewery and Mojo Skyline's artwork. Greetings, Earthlings. Thank you so much for hitting that play button wherever you enjoy your podcasts. I'm so grateful to take you on this musical journey. If you're new here, I interview all kinds of musical artists on my podcast, and before every interview, I list around 5 new albums that I dig by artists big and small. This week marks episode 21, and I am stoked to have John Drake and Scott Miller from London's rock band, the Dust Coda. What a cool show. I can't thank my husband, Mike Airy, enough for connecting me with their drummer, Scott, to dig into the Dust Coda's sophomore album, Mojo Skyline. Check them out everywhere online at the Dust Coda while I dive into some new albums that I dig. You can listen along to all the new music that I reference on my show via 2 5-star playlists that I created just for you. Brandi is Going to Hell, New Music I Dig, and Brandi is Going to Hell, My Dope Guests. You can find these playlists on Spotify by searching Brandi Lukas Airy or on my website, brandiisgoingtohell.com. So let's get into it. New music I dig. London's The Skinner Brothers 4-track EP Iconic was released early May, and well, it's pretty fucking good. Loaded with a bunch of punchy songs and fun hooks. I just can't stop listening to it. Check it out. Diamante's sophomore album, American Dream, is truly 11 tracks of badassery. I got to see Diamante perform when she opened for 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin a few summers ago, and I have been following along since then into this new release. American Dream was produced by Howard Benson and Neil Sanderson of 3 Days Grace and is self-released. There's also a dope cover of the Goo Goo Dolls' Iris on the album. I was curious what everybody was going on about with Olivia Rodrigo's Sour. I am quite bad when it comes to popular culture. However, I gave it a listen this week, and I gotta say, I dug it. I think all teenage girls should listen to transparent, vulnerable, yet strong girls. It's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sassy. Luckily for me, I had Kate Nash. I'm glad to see in 2021 there are more women with something to say in the spotlight, and that goes for Olivia and for Diamante. Like badass girls, showing other women the way, and I love that shit. Up next, Legends of the Desert Volume 2 is comprised of 3 tracks from Salt Lake City's stoner rock band, The Penitent Man, who has been a guest on Brandi is Going to Hell. Make sure you check it out. And another 3 tracks from Austin, Texas's drone prog doom band, Cortege. It's a really cool album released through Desert Records, and We can just say that Todd Ogren, the keyboardist for Rival Sons, lays down some dope-ass keys on the 3 Penitent Man tracks. So make sure you give that a whirl when you're done listening to my interview with the Dust Coda. And to bookend all the new music that I dig, England's Squid released their debut Bright Green Field early May. They're weird, they're spontaneous, they're fun, they're odd. You totally have to be in the mood to listen to them. And if you listen for the first time, they totally catch you off guard because they're different. I just love listening to them. I think they're the present day B-52s, but a little bit more grungy. And now it's time to dive into my chat with John and Scott of the Dust Coda. The band released their second album, Mojo Skyline, this past March, and it has gotten a lot of praise by people and in the charts. I must say, John Drake's vocals are truly something special, and it sets the band apart from all the other rock and roll bands releasing new music at this moment. I mentioned in the interview my favorite songs at the moment of interviewing them, but my flavor of the week of theirs at this current time is She's Gone, after listening to it loud during a long drive this past weekend. John and Scott expand on the making of the album. They tell some fun stories from being on the road, and of course, I throw some random rapid-fire questions at the end. Here's the Dust Coda on Brandi is Going to Hell. Hi, how are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for doing this.
Not a problem. Absolutely happy to be joining you.
Thank you so much for hanging with me today. I'm super appreciative and grateful that you both made the time to talk everything in the Dust Coda's world. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, great to be here.
Cool. So can you please introduce yourselves for everyone in podcast land? Can you name your role in the band and your name?
My name is John Drake. I am the singer, songwriter, co-songwriter, and guitar player in the Dust Coda.
And I'm Scott Miller, and I play the drums in the Dust Coda.
Awesome. So we're here to obviously celebrate the release of your second album, Mojo Skyline, which was released March 26th of this year, and it's gotten a lot of love. It hit number 27 in the official UK chart, number 3 in the UK rock and metal albums chart, made a few appearances in the US Billboard charts. Demon was featured in Elton John's Rock Hour show, added to his Elton John Love Spotify playlist. And you're nominated for 2 categories for Planet Rock Radio's The Rock Awards, Best British Album and Best British Single with Limbo Man. So that's fucking awesome. That's really cool. Huh?
Yeah, you got that down well. That's better than us.
Yeah, I figured I'd like get that out of the way because, you know, I just want to talk about the nitty gritty of the album with you guys. But that's all such amazing accomplishments and great for, you know, album number 2. So on Earaches Records site, you mentioned your favorite songs, but I'd like for each of you to highlight yourself for everybody that's listening. What's your favorite track on Mojo Skyline? Why? And then I'll tell you mine.
Nice. I'll go first then. And yeah, it's been a question that we've been asked quite a lot, as you can imagine, and it doesn't make it any easier to answer, which is a great thing because I just think, you know, all the tracks on the record at some point have been my favorite. But the one that that stands out and did from the start, and it's kind of why it is my favorite, is a song called Dreamerlight, which is track 4, I believe. And it's you know, it's not our kind of heaviest rocky song on the album. It's a bit more melodic, a bit more of a sort of Lynyrd Skynyrd, Sweet Child of Mine vibe, and it's just got such a catchy hook, which is something I love in all my favorite songs anyway, regardless of whether they're the Dust Coda songs. And the other point I'll say about that is because the recording process can be quite hectic and stressful, we're often sort of in and out doing different bits, and you're under time pressure. So I did the drum part, got it all down. The producer was like, great, you're done, go home or whatever. So I didn't really get to hear the final product at all. And then when he'd kind of mixed it and stuff and sent the first draft of Dreamer Light, and I kind of had it coming through my cans, it literally just sent a tingle up my spine. The way it came together, the drum sound, just the whole piece just captured for me everything we wanted to do on that album, and I just think it's a great song. So Dreamer Light is mine.
Cool.
You know, it's interesting because I think with that song we captured everything I really wanted to capture with that song as well. I remember first hearing it and going, this is exactly how it should have sounded. Yes.
But is it your favorite?
Well, I mean, so my favorites change every day. So what's my favorite today? Oh man, do you know what? I'm gonna have to go with It's a Jam today.
Okay.
So It's a Jam's It's a Jam's a kind of a favorite for mine in many ways, because it started up, you know, I wrote the majority of the song on this rooftop in Greece about I don't know, God knows how many years ago, before lockdown, 2 years before lockdown, and when we were getting the songs together for the album. And you know, I was just in the sun, I was drinking wine all day and just strumming my guitar. I should have had a sombrero on. It was just that kind of vibe. And I ended up writing that tune and then bringing it to the band. And for me, knowing the journey of that song from this kind of acoustic strummy thing and having this vision of it, and where it ended up as this kind of long kind of epic that starts off like a kind of pretty conventional rock song, and then ends up with this very kind of, I don't know, this kind of slightly mournful, bittersweet, but gigantic ending. It's just does it to me every time. Getting high my own supply.
Nice. No, actually, It's a Jam's one of the ones I was going to mention as well that I really dig. It's whimsical, kind of perverse, and super fun, you know, to close Mojo Skyline with. And I'm also a sucker for a ballad, so Bourbon Pouring's really cool to me and pulls at my heartstrings. And then Demon is like such a banger to start off the album with. So those are mine, and I'm glad to hear yours too. So that's awesome.
Do you have, like, could you pick one though as like
one? I'm a really up-tempo kind of girl, so I think maybe Demon if I wanted to like go on with an all-out rock, you know, rock out. But when I was listening to the album through the whole way through, it's so hard for me to pick because like It's a Jam, and I was like, I'm a very lyrical person too, and I really liked, you know, what It's a Jam was saying. You know, I kind of liked the sassy lyrics that it started with and everything like that. So it's stuck between those two, Demon and It's a Jam. Sorry, I can't pick one.
I mean, Demon was the sort of one of the crossover tracks from our first album, in that it's kind of got that similar classic rock vibe that the majority of our first album was. And that was one of the first songs I think we kind of workshopped when we were kind of writing the second album. And yeah, to open it like that, it's it just makes that statement. It's like, it's us, it's the Dust Coda, we're back.
Yeah.
But then
we're back.
Kind of flip side is It's a Jam. I think when we went in to demo it, we weren't necessarily all 100% they would make the cut from memory.
No, some of the band were like, you know, I think Adam was a bit like, nah. And I was like, no. I had the vision in my head of where it was going to end up. And, you know, it ends up with this big crescendo. I was like, just wait. And then I think what made it start working was when Tony got behind it with his bass.
Yes. Yeah.
And then when suddenly there's a moment where it went from being this kind of strummy, like, kind of song to like, it's kind of almost hypnotic drum beat. Because obviously when you're rehearsing a song or writing a song, you know, you might loop a verse for like 20 minutes just to get the groove, you know, to get Scott and Tony in the groove. And I think that's when Adam started kind of feeling and going, okay, yeah, I get this now.
Yeah. So so they're quite disparate songs, and they top and tail the album, and it's quite a nice journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I support your choices. We'll let you have two.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard to pick because everything is very different as you go along. And Yeah, it was just like you said, a journey, because there was so many different sounds throughout it, and those two stuck out to me. So yeah.
Awesome.
So if you could tell me about the writing process and recording process for Mojo Skyline, from, you know, the songwriting process to working with Clint Murphy and everything kind of in between.
Sure, I'll start, and you can, you know, give it a crack as well. So what happened with this record is, and it's kind of similar to the first one, but is, you know, Adam and I will get together and we'll kind of start just compiling ideas that we have. Like, he might have a piece of music or a song that he, you know, has written like a structure of music for, and I might come in and put some lyrics and melodies to it, or chop it up a bit. Or I might have a pretty much fully written song that needs to be TDC-ified, and we bring it in the mix, and then that kind of gets maybe shuffled around a bit and twisted and tweaked until it's, you know, got the feel that is TDC. Because every TDC song has to feel like TDC. It's got to go from that initial idea to then suddenly that, yeah, this sounds like a Dust Coda song. So yeah, we compiled the songs, and then, you know, we'd been playing a couple of them on the road for a while. Best believe it, we've been playing on the road for years.
Yeah, and they don't know rock and roll.
Yeah. And Demon, we played on the last show of our last tour. We played at the Cavern in Exeter. Mm-hmm. We played Demon, and that was a killer. And yeah, so I think we wrote the songs and we started rehearsing them together. And then what happens is, then, you know, we'll get in a studio with Clint, and we'll go and just record all the songs that we've marked for album 2. We'll record them live in the studio, just all of us there as a rock band, mic'd up, bang. Then we kind of listen to them a lot, get drunk, listen to them a lot, you know, just stay up after gigs listening to them, getting excited. And that's the fun part. When you're listening back to those demos, the live demos, and you're like, oh, yes, this is going to be a fucking great record. You know, you get excited already. That's when it gets kind of interesting, because you're like, oh man, wait till Clint gets involved, or, you know, wait till Clint does his production shit on it. And, you know, and then Clint will come in and listen to the demos that we decide we want to turn, the songs that we want to make into the album. He'll be like, well, that needs to be halved. Yeah. Well, that's too long. And we'll be like, nah. He'll be like, yeah.
Clint becomes basically a band member for that pre-production and recording process. Like, he's so involved, just because he's so talented, for starters, as a musician. He's a drummer, actually, which is great for me. But just technically, he's a wizard. He can do stuff so quickly. And he's so creative with, you know, obviously things with drums. Like, he'll kind of listen to the parts and suggest little fills or little kind of rhythms and things that we can try out. So in the recording process, we obviously lay down like the drums first, and it's often just me and Clint in the studio, the two of us, for like 3 days. And it's great because we can just really zone in on it, and it'll just be me listening to basically a click track, and Clint not even any of the music, which pisses these guys off, because I'm like, I just want to get the beat nailed, and then that sort of platform, then the rest of the band come in and add their bits, and it just builds. And Clint, like, throughout the whole process, on the guitar sounds, on, you know, he's a genius with backing vocals and harmonies and things like that. And it's our second record we've done with them, and fingers crossed we'll do the next one with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you guys hook up with Clint?
Interestingly, we had a manager many years ago who, I'm not going to say his name, but he was pretty dodgy, and he was just full of shit, basically. And I think he probably still owes us some money. But the good thing that came out of this really shitty manager, and this is a long time ago, this is probably 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
He introduced us to Clint. And that's how we met it too. So wherever this guy, whose name I'm not going to mention, is, at least he got that right and introduced us.
Yeah, there's always something good that comes out of a bad relationship. Always one thing, at least, right?
Yeah. Clint's obviously a Kiwi. He's from New Zealand. I think he had maybe just moved over and not been over for that long, as predominantly an engineer, like a great engineer, but wanting, I think, to sort of branch out and do a bit more production. And so I think for him, it was a good project to get stuck into, because we were completely open to ideas and his involvement. And I think there's plenty of decisions throughout the life cycle of this band that we've kind of had to make, and some of them have been risky, and it's like any band trying to become successful. But that meeting with Clint, however it came about, I think has been such a sort of pivotal moment in our careers. So it worked out pretty well.
I agree with that. I think the band would have gone a very different. Well, actually, I don't know about that, but Clint really got the best out of this band at each time that we made a record.
We've recorded stuff before, like demos and things, and they came out pretty well. But it was just the next level. Yeah, Clint just really blew our minds with that first album. And he pushes back too. He kind of, if you're like, no, I don't really want to do that, it'd be like, you guys are being lazy. Yes. You guys are like, you guys are being boring. Like, I remember on the first record, there was we had a keyboard player on one song. I remember us putting keyboards on more at fades. Yeah, I do remember. And I was like, this just sounds rubbish. He's like, you guys are gonna risk more, take more risks. And like, we ended up having this big argument, not like a bad argument, but just like a really strong creative argument. And we didn't end up having the keyboards on that song because that didn't sound good. But the point is, Clint will push you to try stuff, and in a way that you wouldn't usually try things. Like we all experiment, but when you've got someone else kind of tweaking the direction in which you want to experiment, that's when you start coming up with some magic.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. And Mojo Skyline obviously released in March 2021, you recorded in 2020. How did you mentioned you wrote It's a Jam on a Rooftop. Do you predominantly write when you were on the road before, or was it in certain do you keep it, like, how do you just document all of these little ideas or moments that you have that spark in your mind?
So it's actually the album Mojo Skyline was recorded in 2019.
Oops. Okay.
but to answer the question, it's just good old fashioned
the little magic black book.
It's just, this is just literally
okay, there you
hundreds
go.
and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ideas.
All of a device, right?
And we demo things, but we keep it pretty organic. Like before we get in the room with the other guys, Adam and I, we basically play the songs to each other and record them on a phone. He'll sit with his electric guitar and a little amp, and I'll sit with my acoustic guitar, and I'll sing. And if it works and we think that's a banging song, then it gets to the rehearsal room. There's not some long drawn out demo process with him and I, because as far as we're concerned, it's organic rock and roll. So if it can't sound good with the two of us, it ain't going to sound any better with the band. It's got to be, the magic's already got to be there.
Awesome. Cool. And John, your voice is like phenomenal. I think it really separates you guys from a lot of rock bands in the moment, and I just wanted to say that. It's just like, every week when I listen to new albums that come out for the week, very unbiasedly, and just hearing the Dust Coda compared to other rock bands, it's like, oh damn, John's voice like really has this magical thing that keeps you reeled in and all that jazz. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks very much. Really, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You mentioned the record's name, Mojo Skyline, represents time staring out into the sky, thinking about the life you have chosen, the ups, the downs, the people you meet, and the crazy shit that happens. Can you both share a crazy, fun, or weird story for old time's sake? It can be a show itself or a memory on the road, open-ended for you guys.
I got one.
You start then if you've got one ready to go.
So we, long time ago, we got booked to do a private party. You remember?
Yeah.
A private party for an affiliation motorcycle gang of the Hells Angels.
Okay.
and they were a proper patched up motorcycle club, and it was in Grimsby, and it was for the 50th birthday of one of the heads of this motorcycle club.
Yeah.
And it was private, we come into this bar, and it's like walking into Sons of Anarchy's, clubhouse, and no one else is allowed in there except for the rock and rollers and the old ladies and their kids and all the bikers. And so, we get shuffled in there, and these guys are lovely. They're like, all right, lads, come on in. Your Jack Daniels out the back, some pizza's coming. Whatever you do, do not go down that trap door down there. And you're like, and occasionally you'd see these guys coming out of this trapdoor, which is obviously the underground clubhouse, and they just look like the meanest, baddest dudes you could possibly imagine. And so I was a bit like, this is intense. And we played the show, and they just loved it, and they went for it. And the thing is, walking around, they weren't mean and rude and intimidating. They were like really friendly and lovely. And one of the funniest parts was, we had our gear outside in a van, and I was worried to get stolen. And when I kept on going outside, and I said to the guy at the door, I said, mate, I'm sorry, I keep checking outside. I'm just worried about a van getting stolen. He said, he laughed. He went, don't you worry, mate. Nobody's going to touch your van. I was like, of course they won't, because it's parked outside that practically the Hells Angels clubhouse.
Yeah.
No one's going to touch anything.
Best security possible.
Yeah. To me, I just remember thinking, this is what music, being a recording artist and a touring performer, this is where it takes you. It takes you to some of the most extraordinary kind of worlds that you wouldn't usually get to see. You would never get to kind of experience that subculture.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you ever see what was down that trap door or no?
No.
You ask no questions. Okay. They tell you no lies. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, lots of smoke was coming out of it. I was just like, I am not going down there.
Yeah. Some things are left, alone.
But it was cool, man. It was cool. Scott?
I've had, bear with me because there's a couple that have come to mind. The quite cool Spinal Tap moment was, we did quite a big festival over here called Rambling Man a couple of years ago. And we had the real sort of luxury of getting ferried to the stage in like a golf cart.
Which we thought was amazing.
Yeah. We didn't even need to, but they were like, do you want a lift? Like, hell yeah.
No, because remember they came up to us and they're like, Dust Coda, your buggy's here. We're like, what? They're like, yeah, you've got to get in your buggy. I'm like, the stage is literally 200 meters down there. Like,
Chariot awaits.
We're like, yeah, you kind of have these moments where you're like, shit, this is kind of feels like we're making it. So no, the two, like the two kind of brief ones, because they're just, one is a bit kind of crazy, and it probably represents things that happen quite a lot in the Dust Coda camp. And we were playing again another quite big festival with Planet Rock last year, and it was our first time on the main stage, and we were all pretty pro in that we don't play pissed or anything like that, and we're not in our 20s anymore, unfortunately, so we can't get away with it as much. But if we've got a big show, we will we'll enjoy the experience. And shows like that, they're very rock focused. You get to know like some of the core fans and like the crew and all that kind of stuff, and they put you up in whatever accommodation they've got. So this site had a load of like caravans and stuff, so we had this caravan allocated to us, and we played the second night. We went for the first night, just loads of beers and whatever, and then I remember getting back to the caravan. And then my memory then goes, and it's because if you put us as a band in a room, all we need is a bottle of Jack Daniels, a Bluetooth speaker, and Spotify, and we are entertained for hours. Like it's quite simple in that respect. But that night, something happened.
Was it Planet Rockstock?
It was Planet Rockstock. I think it was. I think a second bottle of Jack Daniels happened, and then in the course of the evening that I don't remember, apparently it turned into a bit of a caravan party, and all these kind of fans and people came in.
Oh yeah,
listened. Adam we'd had the kind of raw cuts, the demo, the produced tracks from Mojo Skyline. This would be about a year and a half ago, so no one heard it. And there was this very special listening party apparently kicking off, and I'd obviously just KO'd.
That's right. Yeah, because I remember we're chilling and like just having a drink.
The lights were on in the caravan, and just like a beacon for people.
Yeah, and then suddenly there's like 20 rock fans in our caravan, like listening to Mojo Skyline, getting the first listen anyone's ever heard.
That's cool.
I remember the next day walking around the site, and people were like, "Oh, it's great to like come around your caravan last night and listen to the album." And I was like, "Who are you?"
Oops.
So that happened, and I'll tell you the other one quickly. Was and I think we recalled this story a few times. It's worth repeating. We played another, again for us, a great festival to play, Steelhouse in Wales, and we were there for the first night, and like Glenn Hughes was playing and Miles Kennedy was playing, and we met Miles backstage, and like that's all cool just to like hang out with those kind of people. But where it is in Wales, it's quite exposed to the elements. It's on this hill, and so it's, even though it's summer, it can have a bit of a microclimate. And the next day when we were due to play to open up the main stage, the weather had really like come in, and it was gales and it was torrential rain. But it's like, British festivals, they're hardy souls. The show will go on. But honestly, this one was so bad. There were like electric wires, lights just kind of dangling everywhere. And the owners, just the guys that run the festival, had to come up to us and just say, "Lads, it's not happening." We were like, "Oh man, this is, it's a dream slot for us." And so we kind of like reluctantly, so having traveled all the way to Wales,
up a mountain, by the way.
Mountain.
The festival's on top of a mountain, rocky roads, and
we got back in the van and kind of just sulking away back home. And then as our driver Dan was going down the hill, we kind of saw in the wing mirror a Range Rover sort of speeding down, like shouting, "Where's the Dust Coda?" And this guy, he came up to us like, "You're the Dust Coda, yeah?" And he's like, turn back. The choir boys are stuck in Hamburg."
"You've got to go on now. The show's back on."
So various bands, like the choir boys got stuck.
The Storms and
the Dead Daisies were supposed to play, and they got stuck somewhere. And the storm had kind of eased a little bit. So like, "Come back, you're on." So
we're like, "Oh, fuck."
We'd all like resigned ourselves to going back home, being nice and warm, going down the pub. And we're like, "Oh man, we got to play now."
Hissing down.
And we did. So yeah, that was an example of the show very nearly not going on, but it did. And yeah, I mean, testament to those guys at Steelhouse, and hope we'll be back in the next couple of years. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, those are cool stories. I like them all. Very cool. That's fun. So, and speaking of touring, you have a UK tour slated for this December. So that must feel so amazing after the past year and a half. And honestly, perfect timing with the release of your record too. So hopefully I can make it out. And if not, get your asses over to the US at some point. So
yeah, I think the thing about the billboards was great, because you don't have a specific America plan, especially at our stage, because if you want to hit up America, you've really got to go for it, haven't you? It's all about the shows, the radio plays, the PR, and you've got to I think you've got to go over for 3-4 months or whatever. But at the same time, we're not going to stop. People want to buy a record in America. Obviously, our label Earache have had success with, Rival Sons and Blackberry Smoke, and have got good sort of US followers. I think that helped. So it feels like there's a bit of interest over there. And we'd definitely love to come over. Al, who's you might know Al actually, the Earache label manager in the US, is also an Aussie. So I think he's got a bit of a attachment to John, as like, let's bring Aussie rock back to the States. But yeah, over here in December, fingers crossed, got 8-9 headline shows, which by then, things are looking a lot better at the moment. So yeah, it's got to come back, hasn't it? Live music in 2021.
Yeah. It will. Everything's booked for this summer. So we're got to put out the good energy in the world. So it'll happen.
Yeah, it seems like over there, it seems to be kicking on quite nice as well. I suppose, is it different in States or?
America, oh boy. I mean, geez, like we obviously didn't do a lockdown like you guys, but every genre is a little bit different. I mean, there's people raving in New York City, there's shows going on in Nashville, and outdoor things are starting to happen more and more. So we'll see. I'm very hopeful, and I can't wait to buy like my first proper ticket, like for a show. So very hopeful. And it's all the festivals are, being announced. Lollapalooza was announced and everything like that. So yeah, rock and roll. Let's do it. So, Scott, you worked in the drinks industry for quite a while, and now you're at Beavertown. And there's something very similar between the beer cans and Mojo Skyline's artwork. So, did you make that happen?
Yeah, you sussed it. Yeah, no, it's a great sort of coming together of creative minds. So Beavertown is a craft brewery, obviously in London, and there's a couple of strands here that are pretty cool. I'll get the big one out the way first. So we were founded by a guy called Logan Plant, who is also a musician and did tour the States and stuff with his band. And he actually created a brewery over here because he saw the craft beer scene in America and the barbecue scene and all that kind of stuff is so far ahead of what we're doing, and he wanted to bring a bit of that back. But he also happens to be the son of a man called Robert Plant, and it is the Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. So that's pretty cool. That's a sort of a musical connection there, and it means that Beavertown as a business has got music literally running through its veins. But anyway, that aside, the creative director is a guy called Nick Dwyer, who comes up with all the branding that you see, the sort of crazy psychedelic spaceship skulls, just a really sort of great creative mind.
Is that the hair of the dog today?
Guns on the hair of the dog, as am I actually. But so yeah, Nick's kind of become a good mate of mine, obviously through working with him. And when we got the record deal and were starting to talk about the creative, because a lot of our sales were on vinyl, because that's kind of making a comeback. There's something that I particularly like, I think we all like, about artwork and the physical sort of copy of a vinyl, and it's all part of the same piece, isn't it? And you've got to, whether you want to reflect the songs or not, you want to do something cool. And it just made sense that if Nick was good enough and kind enough, which he was, thankfully, to work with us, it'd be great to get his input. So we gave him a blank canvas. We had a few great sessions with him last summer, kind of down the pub, drinking Neckel, drinking Beavertown beers, and he'd heard the album. We had the title at that point, and to see an artist like that in action, he was illustrating in front of us, and it was like, oh yeah, let's put a broken guitar neck in the boot with this octopus, and it's like, you guys, we're in the kind of Cadillac, whatever it is, watching this crazy psychedelic film, and then the background is the sort of desert scene, which you could say kind of brings to life the Mojo Skyline, or his interpretation of it. So there's not a great science behind it, but I think that's part of the charm. There's little facets to it that represent what we do. There is a guitar in it, and there's the dusty rock and roll highway and all that kind of stuff, but the rest is just, it's great artwork, to the extent that in the end the label, or collectively, we decided we didn't even put our name or the album title on the cover. So if you get a vinyl, it comes shrink wrapped, obviously, with the sticker on it that says the Dust Coda Mojo Skyline, but the vinyl itself is just all about the artwork. Which is, it's pretty ballsy, but
that's rad. That's so rad.
We think it works. So
it is, isn't it? So cool.
That's the Beavertown Dust Coda collaboration, and we're delighted with it. And kudos to Nick again for his help with it, because it's come out like it's amazing.
Yeah, that's really fun. And John, you're from Australia, right?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you make your way to England? And I know that you and Adam started the Dust Coda. So how did you meet Scott, and how did he join the band?
So, I was in Australia. I was at drama school. I was actually training to be an actor, and I just kind of was always torn between, whether to pursue acting seriously or to pursue music. And I kind of think I had a fight with the faculty at the drama school, and they're like, you need to decide what you want to be, a musician or an actor. And I was like, well, fuck you, I'm both. And I jumped on and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to go to London and form a rock and roll band. And it was like my spite. It was like my spite at the world. I was like, fuck this, I'm going to London. I'm going to form I'm going to be a musician. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to stop until I do. And nearly like 7 years later, after numerous soul-crushing gigs, like I was in an indie band for a while. Not an indie band, but like an indie kind of rock band, a bit like U2 for a while, fronting that. Then I was playing lots of kind of acoustic shows in London and around the traps, just doing the whole kind of singer-songwriter thing. And then I met Adam on that kind of scene, and he was a guitar player. He'd been doing a lot of session work for people. And yeah, we just kind of, we were doing some stuff. And then one day he said to me, do you want to write some songs? I want to form a rock and roll band. And I was like, yeah, cool, okay, why not? Fuck it, I love rock and roll. I mean, God, I totally love rock and roll. I mean, because that's all I've ever known. You know, I've been playing guitar since I was 10 and singing since I was about, I don't know, 17 or something. And we just kind of got together, and it was just one of these organic things. Like, you know, we started writing some tunes, and within like about a month, so we get together on a Monday night in Brixton, drink some cans of Red Stripe, and I think we wrote most of our first album kind of in this little room, in his bedroom. He lived in a share house with a bunch of mates, and yeah, that kind of happened. And then we made that record, and then but before we made it, we'd had a few musicians that were with us and were playing shows in the London kind of, you know, circuit. And then one drummer left, and we kind of found Scott, I think, on Gumtree or something.
Yeah, it was.
It's like a
old school
like website finding musicians. And then Scott came on board, and God, that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah, 8-9 years ago.
Far out, man.
So I'd sort of been in and out of bands, and I was playing at that point covers because my last originals band didn't make it, as most of them don't, and you become a little bit sort of disillusioned. And I was 27 or something, which is by no means old, but you kind of like, oh shit, I should have made it by now. And at that point I was like, I think I've got one more go at this in me. And actually playing in the rock covers band sort of reignited my kind of rock passion. And I spent ages looking for the right outfit, because there's a lot of rubbish around there. Around it, like in London, it's not particularly rock city. So it took me ages to find stuff that I kind of connected to. I mean, let alone obviously a band that kind of wanted me in. But I found John and Adam through Gumtree, this sort of audition website, and they had a demo on there. I think it was the More It Fades, and I was like, fuck yeah, this is it. Like, this is the music I'm not hearing at the moment. And we auditioned in a little studio down in Clapham Junction, which we stayed in for probably 6-7 years in the Arches down there. And Ollie, our first bass player, joined soon after I did, and obviously we recorded the first album together. And here we are 9 years later. And it feels like it's one of those, you know, for us, Mojo Skyline's the first time a lot of people have heard of us, and it's great that they're buying into it now. But we're seeing a real kind of spiked interest in our first album now, which is awesome. Yeah, because people want to, you know, see your back catalogue and just kind of jump into the sort of TDC crew and get behind us, which is amazing. But it's 9-10 years worth of
Oh man.
Nothing happens overnight. So
exactly.
But that's amazing. I'm so stoked for you guys. And that's so cool how you all met too, especially coming from Australia and, you know, taking that risk. And that's awesome. That's really cool. And I'm so stoked for you. So is there anything else exciting that you can tease or share in the world of the Dust Coda?
Over the next couple of months, we're shooting some more videos.
Oh, okay, cool.
And we've been thinking about doing a cover. That's all I'll say.
Okay, because I wanted to pry a little bit, because I saw with your date reminder that some big news was coming, and I'm guessing that's what you're alluding to. Is that?
Yeah, I can't say. Can't say any more.
All right, cool, fine. All right.
I'll get in trouble if I do.
Okay, but that's still really cool. Thank you for that. I usually go next into some rapid fire questions that are just more for lighthearted fun purposes. And then before we do that, like, do you want to just let everybody know the best way to support you, where to find you online, and all that jazz?
Yeah, so all of our social channels are just / the Dust Coda. So it would be great if you could check us out on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. The album Mojo Skyline can be bought pretty much everywhere, but via the Earache web shop, so earache.com /the Dust Coda. There's some other bits of merch and things like that on there. Our first album, CD and vinyl, can be bought from our own website, thedustcoda.com. And yeah, we're pretty kind of active and visible on all these platforms. There's a couple of great fan groups on Facebook and on Instagram as well, and on Twitter.
Yeah, there's the Dust Coda. Is it the Dust Coda fan page?
Yeah, and it's cool because people share their sort of because the imagery is so cool. There's lots of just great photos of people with the album and stuff. So and we dip in and out of that and do bits and pieces with them. So yeah, come and say hello. We're all very friendly and.
Yeah, you guys kill it. You are super engaged online. I love that.
Yeah.
More
unfortunately, yeah. The days of mystery don't quite kind of work anymore. You've sort of got to put yourselves out there, which we're good with.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll try and keep delivering good music for everyone. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Excellent. So are you ready for some rapid fire?
Do it.
Let's do
it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Your favorite film?
Heat.
What?
Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, Tom Sizemore, Heat.
Okay,
Yeah.
I gotta check that out.
Truman Show.
Okay, yeah, I saw that one. Okay, that's great. What's an obscure thing that you're really into? And if it's not obscure, just anything that you're really into.
I'm constantly training for marathons.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm. It kind of balances some of the excesses of being in a band, but I like hitting the road and banking the miles.
That's great.
I like boxing.
Boxing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Love boxing.
Nice. And you're also into motorcycling as well, right?
Yeah, I love dirt bike riding. When I go back to Australia, I ride dirt bikes. My folks have got a farm that I go and ride out on, which is awesome.
That's cool. That's like one of my bucket list things is to get my motorcycle license. But Mike's like, you will die if you do that. But I'm still going to do it eventually. Nice. What was the last photo you took? Bring your phones out. Let's.
I tell you what,
I like that question.
Yeah, because my last photograph I took. The last one I took was a pint of beer, of delicious craft beer from Daya, who are one of my favourite breweries in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. The last photo on my phone though is it's a behind the scenes shot actually of our Mojo Skyline photo shoot that we did last summer, and I've got it just because it's a great photo, and it's also, I think, the last time we had a clear sky in London because the weather has been miserable this spring so far.
Mine's of the Hawley Arms in Camden.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I went for a pint there last Monday to meet Ollie, the first bass player for the Dust Coda, who made our first album, to talk about guitars. I went guitar shopping. So yeah. So
they're not scandalous or embarrassing, I'm afraid.
Yeah, nothing too juicy, but still cool nonetheless. So thank you for that. So that's all I got for you. And I'm so happy that you did this with me.
No, not at all. Thank you so much. It's
Thank you.
Yeah, I listened to, you've had some guests like Rob Harris, who I kind of know from being in the same, area that I grew up, and the Simon McBride one and the Todd Rival Sons one. They're great. It's so it's good to be part of it.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I just I work in music, and it's just so important to me to kind of make this other Well, like I just always involve myself in music as much as possible, but like I know that there are just so many gatekeepers in the world, and I just want to give back in my own separate way that's not related to work, and interview bands that I think rock and give a platform for people to just tell their stories. So thank you. Such cool dudes, right? Definitely make sure you check out their latest album, Mojo Skyline. If you don't know where to start, the beginning. Demon hits you hard and you just need to ride it out. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. In my brain, I have this ultimate dream of growing a community of people who love exploring rock music and all music in an unconventional way. Hopefully, if you listen because you are a fan of the Dust Coda, you might check out some past episodes and discover someone else you enjoy. Or stick around because you think I'm cool as hell. Either way, I want to continue celebrating these awesome artists, their stories, and with fun interviews for you. Up next on June 23rd, I'll have Peter Kay of a brand spanking new band out of Long Island called Imitator joining me to celebrate the release of their first single, Correspondence, off their EP Principles, due later this summer. So keep your ears peeled for that. Until then, a random thought to leave with you. Just remember, you're setting the tone for your day, your month, your year, your life, and everything you do, say, and think about. What occupies your mind? And what comes out of your mouth? Thank you, yes, you, for listening to Brandi is Going to Hell. I have a lot more thank yous in order for making the show come alive. I want to thank Celeste Giuliano for her amazing pinup photography. I dreamed of having my photographs taken by her in order to make my podcasting dreams come to life. So thank you, Celeste, and your team for making me look like a hot mama. Thanks to Crystal Rugel for her design direction for my new logo. Spent many nights texting her late. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And she was such a great resource. Shout out and many thanks to Ryan Hanratty at Frosted Green Productions for all video production. My man, definitely don't want to be fucking with video, and you've saved my life. My amazing husband, Mike Airy, for always believing in me and bridging the gap between me and amazing artists. I love you and you're my rock. St. Neots hardcore band Impact for the music throughout the show. You can check out their EP Strength Through Loyalty on every streaming service. My friend Gooch, aka Ryan Nelson, for always asking me when's a new show coming out. My friend Matt Young, who got my foot into the door as an intern at IndieGoot, which led me to my first career in music at Q Prime. So a major shout out goes to Doug Oswandel as well for giving me a chance and hiring me there. My dad, John Lukas, for raising me with an impeccable taste in music. And my mom, Beth Ann Lukas, for helping me be a functional adult with good credit. Last but not least, Brandi is Going to Hell is dedicated to my badass grandmom, Elizabeth Betty Fowler.